Hi, I'm Corey Stewart. I'm a Republican candidate for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
All right, so I'll start off with a simple question. Tell me what you see as the most important issue in the Virginia governor's race.
Well, I think the most important issue in the governor's race here in Virginia is the economy. We've been losing tens of thousands of jobs, 160,000 jobs in the last 10 years, and the reason we're losing jobs is because we haven't done anything to improve the business climate in Virginia. We've been losing a lot of jobs to North Carolina as they've ratcheted down their income tax all the way from 7.75% in 2010 to 5.49% today, and they're going lower. And as that has happened, jobs have been they've been leaving Virginia, they're going to North Carolina and other states. And what I want to do about that is push through the biggest tax cut in Virginia's history.
How would the elimination of the income tax encourage new businesses to start here?
Well, that's a great question. The answer is this, is that 80% of new jobs are created by small businesses, and most small businesses are not incorporated. They pay their taxes at the personal income tax rate. So the only way to get off the back of business, and the only way to let more businesses keep more of their money, is to reduce the burden of state income taxes. And that means that we will have to reduce the income tax for everybody in Virginia, which is good, of course, but that also means that we're going to be able to let small businesses in particular keep more of their money and hire more people.
There's a lot of times when there's discussion of tax cuts at a state level, Democrats will frequently point to the example of Kansas and say, look at the budget damages that happened there after Governor Sam Brownback shepherded through severe tax cuts. Have you looked at the example of places like Kansas and Louisiana, and has that informed your thinking on tax cuts in Virginia?
Not at all. I mean, I think, look, if you're going to have, and here's the difference between Ed Gillespie and me. Ed wants to cut taxes without cutting spending. You can't do it. And if you try to cut tax bills but you don't cut spending, then you get yourself into a deficit situation, a shortfall situation, and that, in fact, does jeopardize the state's AAA bond rating status and causes a whole lot of problems. My tax plan is dependent upon cutting spending first. You cut spending, we're going to have a across-the-board 10% cut in spending. I've done it before in Prince William County, even deeper than that in Prince William County. It was done by Governor Wilder several years ago, and we can do it again in Virginia.
What are some areas that you see as ripe for spending cuts?
Well, I think that, especially in the areas of in Medicaid, for example, and in VDOT, there has never been a zero-based budgeting process done in the state of Virginia. Never. In Prince William County and other localities, we do this in Prince William County every 3 years, every department, we have a zero-based budgeting analysis. So you're going to find room for savings in every area of the state government, in every department. Some departments you're going to cut more than others. Some departments you might not cut at all, such as the state police who have been underfunded. But that's how you do it. You take the decisions, you require your administrator to identify the cuts. They, in turn, push that into mid-level management and then further deeper down into the administration, into the bureaucracy, so that every member of government is looking for savings and looking for cuts. That's how we did it in Prince William County, and that's how I intend to do it in Virginia.
Why have you made Virginia's Southern heritage such a cornerstone of your campaign?
When I saw the city of Charlottesville voting to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee that had been there since 1924, that's the result of political correctness gone mad. And if we don't stop it here, it's going to take off. The very councilors, the city councilors in Charlottesville who said who voted for the removal of the statue of Robert E. Lee, have said they're coming after Thomas Jefferson. Pretty soon you're going to have the statues of Robert E. Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Stonewall Jackson removed from the city of Charlottesville. Then it moves to Richmond. Then it moves to Alexandria and Petersburg and Williamsburg. And then pretty soon we've lost all of these memories, these symbols of our heritage and our history. And when we lose that in Virginia, we've lost our identity. And that's why I think it's so important.
I remember when I talked to you on the night of your re-election victory in November 2015, you'd mentioned that I really made a point in my campaign to have an increasingly close relationship with the minority voters, and that's what Republicans need to do to win in Northern Virginia. How's that going to play out in your gubernatorial race?
Well, it's, some people think that because, if you're conservative on illegal immigration, if you're conservative on heritage issues, protecting the statue of Robert E. Lee and things like that, that you can never win minority voters as a Republican. I've proven that that is not true. Because what happens is Republicans have failed to go into minority areas and to campaign there and show people that you care and that you're there to listen. You don't go there to preach, you go there to listen to what they're saying. And that's what I've done. I go every single year. I go into minority churches and mosques and all over Prince William County. That's what I'm going to be doing as a Republican nominee for governor.
Do you think the African American communities in Richmond would embrace you when you've made a Confederate, when you've made defending Confederate statues and Confederate heritage a centerpiece of your campaign, or the Latino communities in Fairfax when you've called for federal agents for federal immigration authorities in schools?
Yes, and here's why. When we led a crackdown on illegal immigration in Prince William County in 2007, naturally I knew there were going to be some consequences to that. But over time what has happened is, the greatest improvements to public safety in Prince William County occurred in minority neighborhoods. The violent crime rate went down all over Prince William County, but especially in the poorer areas of Prince William County, especially in the areas where there are a lot more minority residents. So that's that. And then the second thing is this: whether you're white or you're African American or you're Hispanic or you're Asian, people are so fed up and they're so tired of political correctness. And that's ultimately what this removal of the statue in Charlottesville is all about. It's political correctness gone mad. And whether you're white or black or Hispanic or Asian, people are fed up with it and they're tired of it.
How do you think the state should grapple with its history of slavery?
Everybody has those warts on their heritage, but you don't toss the baby out with the bathwater. And yes, it is true that slavery was legal in Virginia, but it was also legal in a lot of northern states as well. And I think that Southerners and Virginians should be proud of their history. And of course, slavery is a wart on our history. But that doesn't mean that's not the totality of our heritage here in Virginia. There's a lot more to it than just slavery.
Where do you fall on what the future of the Republican Party should be?
I think the Republican Party needs to embrace the blue-collar, working-class Americans who have been struggling. And one of the reasons that Trump was able to reach in and grab working-class Americans was because the Democratic Party had essentially turned their back on them. And I come from a working-class background. My dad was a longshoreman. And I'm very much, that's where my heart is. And so I see myself as kind of a new Republican, a new style of conservative, similar to Donald Trump, but I am my own man. I'm not anti-union. I do believe in reaching out and working with the working class. And here's the other thing too that we have not done very well as Republicans. We have not been promoting career technical education. We need to shift our focus and make it okay and make it something to be proud of, that you're a working class person, you've got a certification and a working class degree. I mean, on all the social issues, I'm very, very conservative. I'm a leader on illegal immigration. I've been doing that for 10 years, long before Donald Trump ever came up with it. I'm socially conservative. I am conservative on all those issues. But at the same time, I do recognize that the Republican Party has grown tired. And we have to reach in, and we've got to grab new classes of people that we have previously been unable to grasp.
How successful of a strategy is it going to be to embrace Donald Trump in Virginia when he lost the state by 5 points?
Well, a couple things. I mean, I did chair his campaign until October 10th of 2016. And I know quite a lot about this. I can tell you this. One, we knew in the campaign that as soon as Hillary Clinton chose Tim Kaine as her running mate, it was going to be very, very difficult to win in Virginia. And partly because of that, the Trump campaign was outfunded by the Hillary campaign in Virginia by 7-1. I never lost faith, and even after I got removed from the campaign, I stayed loyal.
What's your response to Ed Gillespie's contention that he would be able to better work with President Trump and the White House because he wasn't fired from the campaign as you were?
Look, Ed Gillespie never wanted anything to do with the Trump campaign. He would never show up at a Trump rally. Ed Gillespie never showed up to a single Trump rally. He was one of the first Republican politicians in America to condemn President Trump in the aftermath of the Access Hollywood scandal. And that has not been lost. That message has not been lost with the Trump administration. Even after I got removed from the Trump administration, from the Trump campaign, I stay loyal. Mr. Trump knows that.
Or how did the Trump campaign inspire your campaign and your campaign strategy?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things that were already similar between Donald Trump and myself. I mean, one of the reasons he selected me, in December of 2015 to chair his campaign is those similarities. Very similar, bluntly honest dialogue, and I speak my mind just the way it is, and sometimes it doesn't always come out all that pretty, but that's okay. That's what people want. With Donald Trump, there were some things that I just thought were absolutely brilliant. And one of the things, perhaps the most important thing, was he never backed off when he was attacked by the press or by the left. He just kept going forward. And I think that was a big lesson, because once you start backing up, once you start running in the opposite direction and cowering after the attacks, it's like blood in the water, and then you're done. And I learned that from him. Just double down. Don't back up.
Why do you think your campaign hasn't been able to gain more traction in polls and in campaign cash, even as you're adopting some of the lessons from the Trump campaign of being more blunt talking and not backing down?
Well, to a large extent, people haven't started paying attention to the campaign yet. Even during the last polls that have been done, the last poll was, I guess, a CNU poll, more than 50% of the voters are undecided. And the momentum is on my side. And as people start delving into it, and they start researching as the election gets closer to June 13th, and they're educating themselves about, well, who do I want to vote for? People who vote in Republican primaries are generally very conservative. They're going to vote for the more conservative, outspoken conservative candidate, even if I am more controversial than Ed Gillespie, who's clearly an establishment person.
One of the things that Donald Trump had going for him is that there was intense familiarity with him because of wall-to-wall cable TV coverage, because he had a primetime reality TV show that millions had watched. Is it possible for Republicans to replicate his success?
Well, it's a very good question, and I don't know the answer. We're going to find out on June 13th. But here's the thing, too, that 2016 showed us the increased importance of social media. Social media is the great equalizer. It doesn't cost a lot. Well, Ed's got $3 million in the bank. You can bet your bottom dollar that over the next 2 months, he's going to be running ad after ad after ad. Well, it didn't work for Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush spent over $100 million and barely moved the needle. Ed Gillespie is going to try the same thing, and I'm betting that it will fail for him as well.
Looking ahead to the general election, what would make you a better general election candidate against Ralph Northam or Tom Perriello?
I'm the only one who's won in Northern Virginia. 454,000 residents in a majority-minority county, Prince William County. Not once, not twice, 4 times, by increasing margins. I'm the only one who's proven that he can do it.
When Trump was blown out in Northern Virginia, and when your county race is less of a focus on social issues and more of a focus on pocketbook issues, is it possible to win Northern Virginia or to reduce the margins in Northern Virginia in a general election for governor?
Well, I think that clearly the emphasis on the issues changes. You don't change your position on the issues, but when I was running for every 4 times when I'm running for chairman at large in Prince William County, 454,000 people. You have to stick to the issues that people care about the most. And then, clearly, coming into the general election, they're going to be a little bit different than what they are in the primary, and we're going to be emphasizing those, especially the income tax cut to get more jobs in Virginia. People are very, very concerned about the economy. And I can speak because I've led on this issue. I've already cut spending. I've already been able to reduce taxes. I've already been able to build roads in Prince William County without increasing taxes.
Let's transition to some personal questions. Besides being governor, what was your dream job when you were growing up?
Being chairman of the board of supervisors, I'm kidding. No. You know, I studied at the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. I'm very, very interested in foreign affairs and international relations, so I wanted to be a diplomat, you know, maybe be the ambassador for someplace. You know, I met my wife, Maria, in Japan when I was teaching English. I love traveling. I love, you know, other cultures and studying about them. So if it weren't politics, it would probably be, you know, working for the Foreign Service.
When you're not doing your day job as a lawyer or attending county meetings or on the campaign trail, what's your guilty pleasure? What do you do to unwind?
Believe it or not, I like gardening. I like, we bought a historic plantation named the Bel Air Plantation back in 2012. I've got a tractor. I like working on the property and removing brush and, you know, taking care of the property. I love outdoors work. Yeah, okay.